This is the one of the sample Parquet code. You can run your local machine and see how it is behaving. So in this case, in this example, what we have taken, we have loaded one CSV file in data frame, and then what we are doing, where we are writing this data frame into maybe you can write in blob or S3 based on your need, and you will see this kind of file, Parquet file is getting stored, and it has the snappy attached with this. Internal mechanics, how the internal architecture looks like for the Parquet file. So Parquet internal design, right? So we have categorized this. So if you see, we have top, we have taken file, and in Parquet, what happens internally? It divides that data into the row groups. So here we have taken row group 0 to row group n. So row group again further divides into the column chunk. So in one row group, there may be a possibility you have more than one column, two column or three column. It depends on the data size also, right? So these column chunk will be stored, and row group default size is 128 MB. If you see, it has 128 MB size, and it's a default. You can increase this or you can decrease, but this is the default we have to use, and we have to always go up and not very high. That's where we talked about, right? And now you have the column chunks. In the column chunks, what happens? You will have inside that pages will be there, and pages will you will have the data, actual data will be stored. So in previous example, if you see, we have three columns, right? So in out of three column, let's say two column we are storing in the row group 0, and third column we are storing in the row group 1. So this is the just we are talking about the example. So internally also, once this file, we are talking about the file format, this work the same way. So based on your data set, it will make a different chunk, and then you will have different pages. So inside the pages, you will see the metadata, you will have R value, and you have the D value, you have the encoded data, and each, if you see here the data right hand side, file have the footer, and this footer will have the file metadata. It will contain all the file metadata. Same way, if you say row group will have the row group metadata, and you will have page metadata. So before we understand metadata, R value, D value, encode, let's go to understand these things in detail. So next slide, let's talk about the R value and D value. What are these R and D value? This slide will talk about the R and D value. So sometime what happen in your data, once you are storing in the Parquet file, it may be a nested structure, because Parquet supports that one. So in this example, we have the nested structure. In the nested structure, we have the name and then language and the code. Under the code, we are storing the value. Let's say in this case USA. Another example, we have name, language, code, we have India, and the third code we have the UK. So once we go for the R value, we'll divide these columns 0, 1, 2, and then we'll put name in the 0 location, and then language on the 1, and then code in the second location, and then US is the code. So what will happen, this is the first record, so we'll consider this as a 0. So R value for this will be 0. For the second nested structure, we have the code India, and this is the for the second, this is the first entry, so we'll consider this as a 1. So R value will be 1. And UK under the same column, in the second column, then we will say this is the R value is 2 for this. So R value will be the 0 for the US, 1 for India, and 2 for the UK. Coming on the D value, right hand side, so further we'll say these are the columns, G1, 0, 1, 2, these are the column, and then we'll say name, language, code. So what will happen, it is the second label we are storing this value. So D value is the 2. Under the same code, we have the India and UK, that is also D value is the 2 for this one. So I hope R and D value, you got the clarity on this. This slide will understand the file metadata and column metadata. If you see the left hand side, this is your file metadata. So these are the data type list. We are storing the schema, and then we have the list, another list where we are storing the row group, and row group is further go down. If you see here, data type, it is the column, and column, if you see, we are storing the file path. This is your file metadata, and also talks about the especially column metadata. And right hand side, you can see the element schema element, and key value, and the related column metadata. This page talks about the page header metadata, If you go down, right, especially if you see the page header, will have a encoding type, you will have compression codec, and you will have a different type data types. These are integer, float, double. These are the supported data type in the Parquet. So these are the data type we are talking about. And page header, if you see, the page header will have page header, data page header, index page header, and the dictionary page header. So, and here you will see the encoding details. So this is your page header. This slide will discuss about the encoding scheme. So we'll talk about the RLE dictionary. In the RLE dictionary, what we have taken some of the countries, and we have stored duplicate value. We have the country USA, UK, India, and USA is again is coming 2 times, and the UK is also coming 2 times. If you put that in dictionary, then we'll put 0 for the USA, 1 for the UK, 2 for the India. So once we store this dictionary encoding, we have 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, if you are talking about the encoding data, here if you see the encoding data, so what we will say, USA it came 2 times, 0 to 2, and UK came 2 times, 1 to 2, and then India came 1 time. This is the your how the RLE dictionary works. So this is your encoding scheme. So there are 6 different kind of encoding scheme. We'll talk about into next slide. These are the 5 remaining encoding schemas. So first is the plain. Next one is the delta encoding, and third is the delta length byte array. Fourth, the delta string. Fifth is the byte stream split. If you read this thing, so plain, what is saying that this is the plain encoding that must be supported for the type. Now we have the delta. In delta encoding, we have to make use of variable length of integers. That is our delta. Delta length is always preferred over the plain byte array column. And then fourth one is the delta string. This is also known as the incremental encoding for front compression. And this is the last one, the byte streaming. This encoding does not reduce the size of the data, but it leads to significant better compression ratio and speed. So this is much better. So these are the remaining 5 schemas which we can use. For this video reference, we have taken most of the content from this Parquet Apache.org doc. You guys can go there and look this and understand the Apache Parquet internal mechanism in more detail. Thank you very much for watching.